Ooh, that song's a nice 6.5 minutes long, Josh. We could let that play forever.
Better than listening to me talk, I'm guessing.
Hopefully. How you feeling today, Josh?
I am going to go ahead and apologize up front if I cough in the mic.
Oh, God.
Oh,
That was intentional.
It's gonna be a long show, folks.
All right, Wheezy.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm feeling great. Why should I be feeling any certain way?
No, I just, I think I've started every show so far asking you how you're doing, so.
Oh, yeah. Well, how are you doing?
Living the dream. I had to replace a tire today. That cost me about $200 after I found a nail in it, so that kind of blew, but got to see some family and did a fantasy draft before I came here, so that's all good. Taking care of Bradley's dog. Yeah, all things are green over here. Golden, some would say.
Yeah, no, how is Miko? Has she eaten all the furniture yet?
Yeah, I mean, Brad instructed me just to leave her a box of Cheez-Its. That's kind of what she eats over the course of her life. So I just, every so often I go over there and I give her a nice big handful of Cheez-Its. And true story, I tried to play like a little fetch with her in the yard. Like there's a wiffle ball sitting out there. And I grabbed a bat out of Brad's garage and I hit it out in the yard. And she just looked at me.
Though, right?
No, I mean, I didn't go over the fence because otherwise Miko couldn't get it. Otherwise, I would have popped a dinger, obviously, Josh.
All right.
But yeah, Miko didn't even go get the ball. I don't know if Bradley doesn't play fetch with her dog or with his dog or what, but come on, Miko.
Yeah, no, I guess that's I guess I've never seen Bradley interact with Miko other than when he punches her in the face and plays wrestling with her in the living room. So
is there anything else to do?
I guess I don't know. I did that with Kaya until she bit my hand and then I got pissed. But speaking of Kaya, she is our guest for this evening. There may be a little bit of woos in the background, some chewing. So just for all 4 listeners, please ignore that.
Nah, 4 listeners is generous, Josh. We're at a solid 1, maybe. I don't think anyone listened to episode 2. I also didn't advertise it to anyone, so that might, be a part of it.
Well, I don't blame them.
Yep. Anyways, here at the top of the show, I'd like to advertise we are now officially available on iTunes. We should be available on Google Play very soon. I was hoping it'd be ready by the podcast, but as I'm sitting here refreshing the page, it's not quite ready. So we're available on iTunes. I think in episode 2, we never encouraged anyone to email the pod. So again, that's always hiddenoaksoverdose@gmail.com. And then Josh will go into the little first piece of business here. So I tried to surprise you during the show, but it got spoiled. We have a beautiful new logo.
Absolutely gorgeous.
So if you're watching this or if you're listening to this on your phone, you should see our logo on iTunes or on Google Play or on SoundCloud or whatever. Obviously we've got Josh as the cheesehead, got me down there looking nice and chubby with my Vikings helmet. I've got a nice little tree in the O of Oaks. I don't think that's an oak tree, but it could be. But it's a beautiful looking tree overall. I'd like to give a plug to my good friend Levi Oki, incredibly handsome, incredibly talented. If you're interested in getting some art done or just learning more about this man, you can find him on Instagram. He's Levi Oki Illustration. That's LEVIOKEY Illustration. I'm not going to spell illustration because I can't. But
no,
Levi,
just humorous.
No,
illustration, please.
Z4Q Batman symbol. I think that's it. But anyways, Josh, so something you haven't seen yet was the original draft of that picture. And I was like, did you draw Josh or his dad? Tell me, so no one else can see this, but that is not Josh Mitchell. That is Alan Mitchell. Josh doesn't know what to do.
That is Josh Mitchell after 6 nights of straight binge drinking, waking up in some Colombian prison after doing 40 pounds of cocaine, and then just saying, you know what, let's smile. Let's just smile. That is a scary ass human being right there.
That's not scary. That's your dad. Tell me that's not your dad.
Okay.
That's your dad. You had all those really nice things to say about your dad. I hope he never listens to this now. Holy shit.
No. I was just
We'll take that away now.
Yeah, let's just edit that one out.
No, we will not edit that out. But yeah, I was like, you okay? All right, Josh is... You can't do black tar heroin right before the show, Josh. You know this is what's going to happen. And to make himself feel better with his constant coughing, he has a nice little Crown Royal in his cup. Instead of, like water or medicine, he's got Crown Royal to...
There's ice.
All right, Ron Swanson. Oh, you can't chew into the mic either. Jesus. Oh, my God. So anyways, we should probably start talking about football at some point, right? We've probably lost all of our listeners already, and we're only 5 minutes in. But Josh, a lot of shit happened in the football world today. We probably shouldn't take too long talking about any one thing, but you're on NFL.com from what I see. Hit us with those headlines, boss.
Yeah, hang on. Let me get back to NFL.com because
Oh my
I was
God.
not on there.
Someone's not prepared for the show.
So got a couple headlines, a couple big ones, especially since we are trying to go back and forth between actual football and fantasy. Fantasy relevant, McKinnon suffers torn ACL during 49ers practice. Seems to be non-contact. They were worried that it might be a long-term injury right off the bat, but they didn't think it was an ACL until they got the tests back, it sounds like. Ravens kicker... well, actually, I don't even know if it looks like a kicker. He's kicking in the picture. Karvedvik found injured on a Baltimore street. Apparently, they do not like the idea of him coming after Justin Tucker's job. Don't think he has anything to worry about, but yeah. Khalil agrees to 6-year, $141 million deal with the Bears. Left tackle doesn't work well for the Vikings. Terrence Newman retired, joined the Vikings coaching staff.
I'm really pumped about that one, honestly. Terrence Newman's a big deal. I'm glad he's sticking with Zim.
What if he gets a second wind and wants to come out of retirement?
I'm fine with that. We'll just have to cut somebody. I'm sure we'll have like 8 injured linemen
Well,
by that point.
Something came out earlier saying that since he joined the coaching staff, he is not eligible to return as a player.
Okay, well then, yeah. Then he can't come back as a player. You just answered your own question, Josh.
Well, I'm just saying, what if he won't? All right. Hard Knock stars Kajesti and Orchard are cut. So... I haven't watched any Hard Knocks. Have you checked that out at all, Garlic?
No. I hear it's really good, and I want to watch it every year, but the Browns just didn't excite me in any way.
I'm going to skip this next one because we'll get into that in a little bit. I'm going to go back on some things, but Cowboys release kicker Dan Bailey. Kind of a shock. He usually is a pretty solid kicker from what I understand.
Certainly one of the best in the game. High percentage of accuracy. Yeah, I don't know. That's tough. I'd like to see Pat McAfee's take on that cut.
Yeah, no, yeah, he's usually pretty vocal on Twitter, so that might be something to look into. And then RG3 survives a cut, making the Ravens 53-man roster. Someone's got to get Joe Flacco water on the sideline, though, so I guess that's why.
Interesting to see. I wonder if at any point, do you think he could compete with Lamar Jackson, or is he just there just in case, or why did he make that team of all teams?
I have no idea. Him and Lamar Jackson have a similar play style.
I suppose.
So a little bit more agile. So maybe just something for them to work on together.
I suppose.
But then we're going to go back to the article that I skipped, or the headline, and that is Martavis Bryant cut by the Raiders, facing suspension. Now, he was suspended for a full year in Pittsburgh, came back. Everyone was high on him in Pittsburgh. Contributed very, very little, was childish, complained about Juju, saying that he needed more playing time, yada, yada. Well, it seems he's doing the same stuff out in Oakland, facing suspension now, and he's cut. And that's after Oakland traded a third-round draft pick for him last year. So, not looking good for Martavis Bryant.
In the air.
Sorry, keep going.
Yeah. And then going back to another headline that I never got corrected on, but I mentioned Khalil. It was not Matt Khalil. It was Khalil Mack signing a 6-year, $141 million deal with the Bears. He's not a left tackle. He's a defensive end / outside linebacker.
Yep, I thought your joke wasn't very funny, so I didn't acknowledge it.
Yep, it wasn't very funny. I'm tired. It's 10:40. It's already an hour past my bedtime.
That's generous. It's like an hour and a half past your bedtime. Come on, Grandpa.
All right. But yeah, so that's kind of it for the headlines that I'm seeing on NFL.com right now. Do you have anything to add? Anything that stuck out to you? It was a very busy day, as you commented earlier.
Yep. I mean, to talk about it briefly, kind of the whole meat to this show that we haven't mentioned yet is, we mentioned it in our last podcast, but again, I don't think anyone listened to that one because I didn't broadcast it very well because I'm kind of waiting to see. I was hoping we get approved on iTunes and Google Play, so I don't have to reteach people how to listen to it because it was only available on SoundCloud right away. But anyways. The meat of this show is going to be we're going to go around the NFL, and obviously Josh is a Packers fan, I'm a Vikings fan, but we'd like to go around the NFL and kind of profile all the other teams just to not only prove to ourselves that we know something about football that doesn't exist in Minnesota and Wisconsin, but just to kind of like we did in the last show, we were kind of creating the characters of all the people in our Dynasty Fantasy Football League. In this show, we'd like to kind of give us some talking points. Kind of, we're going to talk about the team and how they're looking, and then we can always reference back this show. So it's kind of like creating the characters that'll be on the field throughout the league throughout the year. So just like to go around all the different teams and talk about them. So all the other news I can think of, we'll probably come down into that when we're talking about all the different teams. So really nothing to add on the headline front from me.
Yeah, I guess non-football related. We started off non-football. We could have added this in at then, but what about this table we're sitting at right now?
Ooh, yeah, Josh did put at least, he said, 2 hours of work into this table we're sitting at. She's not done, but she's looking promising. I remember last time we were here recording a podcast, you had like drawn a nice little L on a piece of paper, and you called that work, so that was cool. I know you have a lot of ideas for how to finish it, so obviously it won't be ready by our next podcast because that's tomorrow morning, but...
I'm thinking spinners.
Spinners? What do you mean, like rims? Or what do you mean by spinners? Oh, that'd be dope. Maybe get some dollar signs. Can they make sound effects too?
Well, yeah, and then we're going to have dice in the mirror.
Yeah, I suppose that makes sense.
First.
Anyways, yeah, bitchin' table. All right, Josh, Jesus. This table's a work in progress for sure, but I mean, the fact that we're sitting at it already is, you know what, Josh, I'll call that a win on your end.
All right. I deserve at least one today after waking up to the news about Khalil Mack getting traded to the Bears.
Poor baby.
Yeah, so let's get into the meat in the show. We're already about 12 minutes in, and we haven't really discussed a whole lot that people want to listen to, and we'll probably get an hour and 12 minutes in, and nobody else still want to listen to it.
No doubt. Oh, I'll tease this now. Probably I figured halfway through the show we'll call Kevin, just so we don't talk about straight NFL teams for an hour, then call Kevin at the end. I figure once we're about halfway through the divisions, we'll give Kevin a call to kind of break it up a little bit.
That works.
All right. So NFC North, you just want to go from the top to the bottom of the sheet here, Josh? What are you thinking?
Let's do it.
All right, so NFC North, at the very top, we got the Vikings. We've already talked about them a lot, so I won't go crazy. But kind of how I have all my teams laid out is I talk about the team, their 2017 record. I'll touch on their projection just a little bit, but we'll do most of that in another podcast, their projection for this year, that is. And then kind of their coaches, any coaching changes or who their coaches are, kind of some adds and losses throughout the offseason, and then the draft. So Vikings went 13-3 last year, pretty good. They lost Shermer, but we got Coach Flip. He's, as far as offense coordinator goes, he's kind of a unknown entity. Obviously, he was part of that Super Bowl winning team, but you don't really know who to give all the credit to on that. Carson Wentz obviously had a good year, but who knows? We got Sheldon Richardson, Kendall Wright, who just cut today, actually, so I should probably change that. But Kirk Cousins and Trevor Siemian were kind of the big names we added in this offseason. We lost Case, Teddy, Bradford, Jerick McKinnon, who just got hurt, like we talked about, Jarius Wright, Tom Johnson, Shamar Stephan, Michael Floyd, Sharif Floyd. I'm out of breath just from talking about it. A lot of losses there. And then our draft class, the big names would be like Mike Hughes or Daniel Carlson. Nothing too crazy there. Like I said, we'll touch on this in another podcast, but Josh and I did a lot of work on the back end here and predicted the whole NFL season. And I have the Vikings going 9-7 this year. Certainly not the 13-3 they were before.
Somewhere in the world, Alex Williams just had a heart attack and or had the sudden urge to murder you.
You think so?
Absolutely. He's projecting 16-0 first week.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's a good thing I was on his podcast before I recorded this then, huh? All part of my strategery. Hey there, Josh. You going to make it?
I'm hoping so.
All right, so the next on the list here is the Lions. So Josh and I are sharing the NFC North. Obviously, he's got the Packers. So he took the Bears, and I got the Lions. So the Lions, they went 9-7 last year, and I don't know if I'm just lazy or it's just a coincidence, but I predicted them to go 9-7 again. Matt Patricia is their new head coach. Jim Bob Cooter, probably the man with the coolest name in the NFL. He is still their offensive coordinator, so good for him. Their offseason wasn't really anything crazy other than Matt Patricia, I think. They added LeGarrette Blount and Luke Wilson and Matt Castle. Those are all middle-of-the-road, kind of older free agents, nothing flashy. They lost Eric Ebron, Halati Nagata, definitely pronounced that wrong.
Halati Nagata.
Sure, and then Dwight Freeney. And then their draft, they took a center in the first round. They took Kerryon Johnson in the second. Then they kind of had a defensive focused draft for the rest of it. So I don't know much about the Lions. Matt Stafford's a good player. He's known for his big arm, and he's had some cool fourth quarter comebacks. His most famous one is that one against the Browns. I couldn't tell you what year, what week that was, but the one where he broke his arm and won the game or something like that, or dislocated his shoulder, maybe broke his arm. It's dramatic, but I don't have a whole lot to say about the Lions. I'm predicting them to go 9-7 this year. Obviously, first year with Matt Patricia. I don't think anything too cool will come out of there. But Matt Patricia was coming into a good team, and the dude's a fucking rocket scientist. So I don't see them regressing. So I've got them going the exact same thing as they did last year. Any opinions on the Lions, Josh, before you take over here?
No, I think 9-7 is pretty fair. Obviously, it's the NFL and anything can happen.
Yep.
Injury, whatever. But
something I didn't mention is a tough division for all of us. But obviously, only in a tough division, only so many people can win. Sorry, go back. Keep talking.
Yeah, no, nothing else to add.
All right, Josh, we got the Packers. Let's hear about them, I guess.
Yeah, last year they went 7-9. Little worse than expected, but when you lose the best quarterback in the NFL, that kind of tends to happen. My first note, Dom Capers is bye-bye. Probably the biggest offseason win. And it took Aaron Rodgers breaking his collarbone to have it happen. And for that, I applaud him. I know he did it on purpose just so Dom Capers could get fired. But it's kind of got the ball rolling. Joe Philbin's back in as offensive coordinator. Mike Pettin, who is famously known for the coach to coach Johnny Manziel into rehab. He is the new defensive coordinator. Joe Philbin, I guess, is back as offensive coordinator. He was here during the Super Bowl run and then the 15-1 season that followed. Lost Morgan Burnett and White Lightning. Excuse me. Jordy was kind of a big loss. Wasn't necessarily expecting it, and may or may not have shed a tear or thousand after it happened. But I am over it. He's in Oakland, and I'm sure after what that organization has done the past few weeks, past few hours even, he's probably out there just kind of writing love letters to Aaron Rodgers, begging him to come back.
Funny enough, that sound clip is John Gruden just fucking freaking out. So we'll play it one more time. That's probably what Jordy Nelson is thinking, though, instead of John Gruden.
That is absolutely true. But some ads. Jimmy Graham led the league in touchdowns for a tight end last season. Tramon Williams, old vet coming in, got a few young corners from the draft that he needs to train in. Muhammad Wilkerson, another lazy is kind of a word that they described him as, but if he can turn it around, he's a Pro Bowl defensive lineman, and so I'm not too worried about the defensive line. That's always been one of the strengths of the Packers defense, believe it or not. There was a traded Demarius Randall for 2008 and a 2018 fourth rounder, for a 2018 fifth rounder, Kaiser, and then okay, I'm backwards. We traded Randall a fourth and a fifth in 2018 for Kaiser, a fourth and a fifth in 18. And basically it just jumped us up 15 spots in the fourth and the fifth round. We also traded Lindsey Pipkins, who was a possible cut on the roster. So whatever we got back for him was going to be a bonus. And then we got inside linebacker Dog Barker. I forget his actual name. I forgot to put his actual
something
note
Morrison,
in there.
isn't it? I want to say it was Morrison.
Yeah, but and if you listen to the episode before this, you'd have heard that this individual got arrested for barking at a dog, claiming that the dog started it, a police canine. And he'll be good depth. He was a 16-game starter last year, I believe. In the draft, got Jair Alexander, Josh Jackson. Josh Jackson was projected to actually be a first-round prospect or a first-round player, and so when he fell in the second, I actually did laps around the island in my kitchen, fist pumping, because I was pretty stoked about that. So far, both of them have had an interception in the preseason, done well. Oren Burks, he's a guy who not many people probably have heard of unless they are Packers fans. Linebacker. I believe he played safety linebacker hybrid in college. Very athletic. He's out right now with a dislocated shoulder. They're hoping he can come back for week 1. Actually, I think it's going to be week 2 is what it sounds like more now, but very athletic, big. He's one of those guys that Packers have needed for pass coverage in the linebacker position. And then just I put bevy of rookie wide receivers, and I believe all of them have been sticking around. Do you have anything to add about the Packers?
No, Josh, they're a scummy organization, and I hate them.
All right. Yeah, sounds good. Anyways, Gar had predictions. I guess I did too. I have them going. You put 9-7. Now I'm going to sound like a freaking homer for saying 12-4. But I also have 10-6 in parentheses because it seems every single year the Packers have a game that should be a auto win that they drop. Like last year against the Browns, they almost lost that one. Even with Hundley, I could have quarterbacked the Packers to a victory in that game. And so I feel like that might happen once or twice this year.
Yep, Josh is, I'm pretty sure, dying of the black lung that finally got him.
Yeah. And so the other team that I have in the North is the Bears. I hope we can get through it a little bit quicker than what we have been so far. But for the Bears,
I don't want to say you took a long time on the Packers, but
the Bears went 5-11 last year. They have Matt Nagy, new head coach. They're hoping that he is Sean McVay 2.0. They lost Cam Meredith to the Saints, and they lost Giraffe Glennon, the savior to the organization that they signed in the last offseason. They cut him. They added Allen Robinson, Trey Burton, Chase Daniel, Taylor Gabriel, Khalil Mack today. And I'm sure they've added more than that, but those are just the big names that I have notes on. And then they drafted Roquan Smith, who's a contract nerd. The reason I put that down is because when I was taking my notes, it was at the same time that he was going through his process of signing his rookie contract and wanting to add in the clause that if he were to get suspended for off the field issues, he would still get paid. And that's one of the reports that came out. How accurate that is, I don't know. I think it was Rappaport that put it out, but he's also the only person that I know that I could pull off the top of my head right now to say.
He exists for sure.
Yep. Yeah. No, he's a real person. Anthony Miller, who's been described as Antonio Brown 2.0 in practices. We'll have to see him in an actual game to kind of put that together, but we'll see. And then they added some miscellaneous pieces to the offensive and defensive lines. Zach Miller, who closed circuit to Jalen here, he's on the PUP list despite never playing again. So he is not the starter. So when you got a trade offer for Trey Burton, he is the starter. And so I read an article about a month ago about Zach Miller that I thought was really cool. And even though the Bears and the Packers are division rivals, what they did was they put him on the PUP list or the IR, and it was strictly for insurance and medical bills. He did recently say he'd like to play again, but the odds of that happening at 33 after almost losing his lower leg, very unlikely. That's all I have on the Bears. Unless you have anything to add, it is definitely going to be me again.
Yep. No, the only thing you talked about yourself being a homer, but in the predictions we did, I had the Packers going 11-5, so not that bad of a homer. I have obviously that assumes Rodgers is healthy, but with Rodgers on the field, that's a great team.
And I had the Bears going 6-10, and I'm not changing that even after the Khalil Mack ad because they had a great defense in the first place, and defense does not win championships. Okay, it does, but I'm not going to change it because I'm lazy. Anyways, NFC South, this is another shared division. So I took the Saints in Atlanta. And 2017, New Orleans went 11-5. My projection for them is 14-2 for this upcoming year. I think they're absolutely one of the top NFC teams, and they have added a few different people and cut a few different people that they've added. But they added Don Barclay, who's a guard, former Packer. That's why I have him on here. Cam Meredith, who was on the IR for the Bears last year. He hasn't done much in the preseason, but I did see in week 4 he had a touchdown, I believe close to 100 yards. They dropped Colby Fleener, Brandon Coleman, who was a wide receiver, who had some fantasy relevance last year, kind of in deeper leagues. But then they traded with the Packers to move up for Marcus Davenport, who's an edge rush, and then added depth elsewhere with focus on defense through the draft. In Davenport's kind of first outing, I think on his third snap, he had a sack or an interception. It was he's been improving, and so that trade with the Packers was it should work out for them, since they were what they felt only a few pieces away from the from surviving a Minneapolis miracle and advancing on to most likely beat the Eagles. Something that Atlanta. Unless you have something to add about the Saints.
Nope, not really. The only thought I had was let's play a game called 1 minute per team, and so that'll keep us on track, I think.
Hey, that sounds like something that we're going to do during the regular season. Anyways, so fine, we'll keep it to a minute. Start the Jeopardy music now. And so Atlanta last season went 10-6. My projection for 2018 is going to be 14-2. It seems I got extremely lazy when predicting the NFC South, because that's what I had for the two teams I had. A lot of random coaching changes, not anything up high, more like the running backs, wide receivers, and all those. And so it may not be the offensive coordinator, but it is definitely something to keep in mind because they're going to be coached by new people. Agreed to 5-year extension with Matt Ryan, who was at the time the highest paid quarterback in the NFL, and then Jake Matthews, who's going to solidify their offensive line a little bit as well. Draft, I asked if they were even there, and then I remember they drafted Calvin Ridley, and so Garlic's turn.
Yep. All right. So Panthers 11-5 last year. I have them going 9-7 this year. Ron Rivera has been there a long time. I mean, not a long time, but he's been there enough. He's got some tenure there. So when I was going through the coaches, Heath Farwell, former Vikings linebacker. He's a coach there. I thought that was just a kind of a cool note. They've got a new GM. I guess he's not new, but he was interim last year. Now he's official. New defensive coordinator Eric Washington. He was just an internal promote guy. During the offseason, they added Terry Poe, CJ Anderson, Jarius Wright, and then they traded for Torrey Smith. And then they lost Jonathan Stewart, Ed Dixon, and Charles Johnson, receiver. In the draft, they took DJ Moore. Then the second and third round, they took some corners. In the fourth round, they took Ian Thomas. He's a tight end, probably Greg Olson's successor. And then in the last rounds, or the kind of their other notable picks were all defensive picks. So, Panthers, they usually go up and down every year. So if they went 11-5 last year, they're probably going to go like 4-12 this year. But I had them at 9-7. I was being generous, Cam Newton's good. I think Cam Newton gets a bad rap. He definitely says some dumb shit, but other than that, he's a good quarterback, I think, on the field. So that's all I got about the Panthers. Josh, feel free to jump in if you got something. Otherwise, I'm on to the Bucks. Bucks went 5-11 last year. I got them going 4-12 this year. So their coach is Dick Carter or some bullshit like that. Not Dick Carter, Dirk Carter. Yep, Dirk. Mike Smith is their defensive coordinator. He's the former head coach of the Falcons. They added Jason Pierre-Paul, Bo Allen, and Vinny Curry in the offseason. They lost Doug Martin and Charles Sims, so those were the big names that I saw at least. They drafted Vita Vea. He looks like a badass defensive lineman. They also got Ronald Jones, the Road Joe. They took a couple of corners and just some more depth players like on the line and in their secondary. Buccaneers are kind of a bad team. Jameis Winston, I won't go there, but Buccaneers, there they are. Bad last year, bad this year, according to me. On to the NFC West, Josh. We got the Rams. I know you like the Rams. At least Todd Gurley. Are you playing fucking Galaxy Quest right now? You are not playing Galaxy Quest while I talk on the podcast. Is this real life?
I mean, make it entertaining and maybe I'll listen.
Oh my God. See, this podcast is more like paperwork. It's more like housekeeping type stuff. This is not going to be an exciting podcast, but the stuff we talk about here is stuff we can reference back, Josh. This is important. We're creating the story right now, okay?
All right, I'll put it on auto.
Jesus. But no, so I got the Rams. I got the whole NFC West. So 11-5 last year. I got them going 10-6 this year. Just a little regression. Even though they added fucking everything but the kitchen sink during the offseason. They got Sean McVay, big coach, big young coach. Wade Phillips is the swag master himself at defensive coordinator. They don't have an offensive coordinator. I thought that was weird. They have a run game coordinator and a pass game coordinator. So I don't know if that's innovative or if that's just the first time I've heard of it, but obviously in the off season they added Brandon Cooks, Marcus Peters, Sue, Aqib Talib, Sam Shields. They lost Sammy Watkins, Robert Quinn, Alec Ogletree, and Trumaine Johnson. They took an O-lineman in the first and the second round. Then they took some defensive guys after that. And then John Kelly, who was the backup to Todd Gurley now. Rams are a good team. I like them. I have them going pretty similar to what they did last year. I think they play in a tough division. So yeah, I don't know. Pretty much the same as last year. They're in the playoffs in my list. The Seahawks.
I do have some to add. Sam Shields, a cider note on him. Former Packer, obviously. Yep. He was a great corner for Green Bay, and 3 of their ads are what would be considered great corners. But Sam Shields, if he gets hit by a raindrop on the head, there is a chance that he keels over. He has had so many concussions. The Green Bay Packers medical team never cleared him to return to football, actually. So when he signed, the entire subreddit kind of freaked out because they are so scared he's going to get hit in the head and just die on the field. So solid player when he's healthy, but if he's one of those guys that if he gets another concussion, it's game over.
Scrambled eggs for brains. Yeah, I mean, concussions are tough. That's a big part of football. I mean, if Brett Favre is willing to come out and say, after all the concussions he had, that, if he ever had a son, he wouldn't want them to play football, that's pretty intense. Anyways, instead of talking about boring concussions, we'll move on to the Seahawks. They went 9-7 last year. Always a threat. The last couple of years they've been known for their good defense and Russell Wilson being a beast. I have them regressing and only going 5-11 this year. Their coach is Pete Carroll, probably Josh's favorite coach to ever exist. Josh is a big fan of gum chewing. That's why he likes Pete Carroll so much. In the offseason, they added Brandon Marshall, J-Ron Brown, Ed Dixon, DJ Fluker, Tom Johnson, Shamar Stephen, and Sebastian Janikowski, the legless wonder. They lost Thomas Rawls, Paul Richardson, Jimmy Graham, Luke Wilson, Michael Bennett, Cliff Averill, and Shelton Richardson, along with Richard Sherman, Jeremy Lane, and Blair Walsh. Why would they cut Blair Walsh, Josh? Probably the best player they had.
Yeah, that is a great question. I've actually taken hours out of my day to research it. And those hours are about 3.5 hours in which the Vikings played the Seahawks in the playoffs. And it takes me all the way up until the end until I find the actual answer as to why they cut them. And it's to summarize, it's just wide left.
You fucking crazy, man. You sound insane. Do you realize that? You should be medicated.
How fucking dare you, Josh? So, yep, I have the Seahawks regressing this year. Their O-line is garbage. Russell Wilson, if he doesn't get injured, it's a fucking miracle. Their defense is gutted. I don't think they have any of the Legion of Boom still. So, yeah, they're going to have them being worse this year. The Cardinals, 8-8 last year, and I have them go 8-8 again. They've got a new coach, Steve Wilkes. He's the former DC from Carolina. No more Bruce Arians. Their offensive coordinator is Mike McCoy. He's kind of been bumping around the coaching scene lately. Bruce Arians and Carson Palmer kind of rode off into the sunset. That's sad. They added Sammy Sleeves and Mike Glennon, though, along with drafting Josh Rosen. So they've got a nice QB situation to have, I think. Sammy Sleeves, when healthy, is amazing. Mike Glennon should not be in the NFL anymore. They lost Adrian Peterson, John Brown, Carlos Dansby, Traymon Williams, and Tyrann Mathieu. And then their notable draft picks, like I said, was Josh Rosen, Christian Kirk, and some other people. Chase Edmonds, I think, was a running back. Moving on to the 49ers. They went 6-10 last year. I have them going 11-5 this year, thanks to the Italian stallion himself, Jimmy G, handsome devil. They've got Kyle Shanahan. He's another... he arguably is the coach who made Matt Ryan. When Kyle Shanahan was in Atlanta, that's when Matt Ryan was good. And now you can see what Matt Ryan is today. He's not bad, but all right. Get the fuck out of here. You know how long that goes on for?
I don't need to listen to more circle jerk about the 49ers this year.
Dude.
Garlic has them at 11-5, and I think I have them at like 5-11.
No, you do not. Oh, my God. Anyways, in the offseason, they added Jerick McKinnon and Richard Sherman. They lost Carlos Hyde, Elmas Dumerville, Dante Johnson, and Eric Reed. In the draft, I don't know much about college football, so I can't speak to it too well. Maybe they got some amazing picks, but they took an O-lineman. They took Dante Pettis. He's a wide receiver. And then, a bunch of defensive guys. So I think the 49ers are the real deal. Kyle Shanahan is kind of like an offensive guru type coach, although I feel like I can say that about a lot of coaches these days. Any other thoughts about the NFC West, Josh?
Nope.
Any major disagreements with kind of what I said other than the 49ers, I guess?
I have them at 7-9. I had to check there.
Dude, Jimmy G is the real fucking deal. I mean, maybe they lose a win because they just lost Jerick McKinnon for the season, but I don't know, Josh. Well, when they say, I don't know if you ever listened to the Common Man, Dan Cole, but when they say save the tape, Josh. 49ers 11-5.
That's just, well, I mean, save the tape is exactly what all of the opponents have done to watch him, and he wasn't necessarily an accurate. He was accurate, but he wasn't necessarily turnover free in his starts, and so we'll see what happens. I think they'll be better than last year. They have more promise, but losing Jerick McKinnon, like you said, is going to affect them a little bit, and then they've lost some other pieces on defense. But yeah, moving on to the NFC East, I'll start off with the Super Bowl champs, the Philadelphia Eagles. They finished last season 13-3. I projected them to actually do the same, 13-3. Next season, they have a new offensive coordinator, Mike Groh. They have some other minor shakeups among positional coaches and things like that. They added Haloti Ngata and Dick Rod, Richard Rodgers, former Packer. He was a very serviceable, not so much tight end. Paul Warlow, Matt Jones, Joe Callahan, who is Brett Favre 2.0. That's a joke. Marcus Wheaton and Mike Wallace. They lost Brett Selleck and Michael Kendricks. The entire NFL lost Michael Kendricks for about 10 to 12 months as he is in a jail cell. They traded Torrey Smith to Carolina for Worley, who's a cornerback. And then they drafted my favorite story from the draft. They drafted Dallas Goedert in Dallas. Their biggest rival is Dallas. And the kicker just tore Dallas to shreds when he announced the pick. He's a solid pass catcher, though. They actually were talking about him on the radio the other day. And they predict him and Ertz to kind of have the same sort of roles as tight ends as Gronk and Hernandez did back in the day.
Does that mean Dallas Goedert's going to end up in jail soon, or?
No, they already sacrificed Michael Kendricks for that.
Perfect.
But yeah, so that's all I have on the Eagles. Do you have anything to add there?
Nope. I mean, I was read an article not too long ago about how there was so much coaching overturn in Philadelphia that I'm predicting this team's going to have the same success it did last year is just tomfoolery. That got into my head a little bit. I'm not going to go change my predictions. I think I had the Eagles being the top or one of the top teams of the NFC also in my predictions. But it'll be interesting to see whether they can, repeat their performance or if because of all the coaching turnovers and Carson Wentz coming off injury, they actually are not so great.
Yeah, when I was making my predictions, this is one of the teams that, even though they came out at 13-3, they were one of the ones that I spent more time thinking of. Okay, it could go this way or this. It was for that coaching change. I wasn't sure when Carson Wentz was coming back. There was an article that said he needed to take his time, and I
think I read today Nick Foles is starting week 1 for sure.
Yep, he is. And so Big Dick Nick is going to be out there on the field for week 1. And so we'll see what happens. But moving on to the Cowboys, they went 9-7 last year.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. They went 9-7 last year. I have them going 6-10 this year. I don't know why. I just did not like their schedule. I don't like the Cowboys that much. Their head coach is still the butt slapping turd sniffer, Jason Garrett. They added Alan Hearns, Deontay Thompson, Coney Ely, Joe Thomas, the linebacker, and then they lost Dez, Orlando Scandrick, Hitchens, linebacker, and then Dan Bailey today. In the draft, they took Leighton Vander Esch at linebacker to fill in some of those roles, fill in some of those gaps, and then I'm guessing take over.
Safety. You have to keep going, Josh. The show must go on, even if I fart.
They took Leighton Vander Esch, who's a linebacker who is most likely going to fill in for Sean Lee when Sean Lee gets hurt in the third play of the season. They took Michael Gallup in the third round as well, who's a wide receiver. So he's one of two on that roster that I know of, other than Cole Beasley, who's out dropping rap albums. The Redskins went 7-9 last year. I project them going 4-12 this year.
Damn. Alex Smith isn't the real deal, huh?
No, it's not that Alex Smith isn't the real deal. The coaching, they have the slightly quieter, slightly after today smarter Gruden and PC Principal as their one of their assistants, and that's one of the Grudens. I think it's John Gruden's kid. he looks exactly like PC Principal from South Park. They added Skandrick, McPhee, the linebacker, Adrian Peterson, and Alex Smith.
AD, baby.
They lost third best quarterback in the NFC North, Kirk Cousins, Orlando Skandrick, LOL, because they added him in this offseason as well. They also lost Su'a Cravens. They drafted Daron Payne, who's a defensive tackle, and then they took Darius Geis in the second round, who was a great runner, highly anticipated. Unfortunately, he's out for the season with an ACL, which is why they added AP, hoping to turn back the clock about 10 years so he can actually run again. Moving on to the Giants, 3-13. I project them to go 4-12. I don't know if you noticed, but my predictions for the NFC East are all very bad for the teams.
The whole division just shit except for the Eagles, huh?
Exactly. Coaching, my note down here is some bum whose name sounds like it's misspoken Sherman, and so that's Pat Shermer, and they added Nate Solder, left tackle from the Patriots, who's underwhelming in camp underwhelming this preseason.
The Patriots don't let good players go, plain and simple.
Exactly. They also added Jonathan Stewart and Cody Latimer. They lost DMC, Dwayne Harris, JPP, and Cockrell, who's a cornerback. Then they drafted some guy out of Penn State named Saquon Barkley, who is going to be a stud by my
Yeah, you put stud in all caps. I almost got a half chub just thinking about it.
Yeah, super talent, underdeveloped dude.
Yep. All right, so that's halfway through the divisions. We really didn't stick very strictly to our a minute per team. Shocking that we didn't do what we said we're gonna do. But I'm plugging in Kevin's phone number as we speak. I don't know how to read my own handwriting, so that's always great. I'm just gonna keep talking so we don't have dead air here. If you're looking for your dog, she's right beneath us.
Yeah, okay, well, the Yankees are terrible.
That was not Kevin Brown, Josh. God damn it.
Oh, you said you were calling him. It sounded like him.
No, it didn't. All right, so hopefully he picks up. Allegedly, he's at his cabin right now.
11:15. He's going to be either hammered or high.
Yeah, does that sound bad in your ear, or is that just me? All right, is my sound just going to go to shit again? Of course, Kevin's not going to pick up. Talk, Josh.
Yeah.
Hello, this is Kevin.
Ooh, Kevin. How you doing, baby girl?
Hey, it's going well. How about you?
Good, Josh. Is that quiet for you? Hold on one sec, Kevin.
A little quiet.
All right. So, Kevin, baby girl, we're in the middle of a podcast here. We're kind of taking a little break so we don't bore all the fans. And we want, I wanted to call you last week, but it just didn't work out. So you're Kevin Brown. We met you through
Yep.
Jesse. You're new in our
that's
Dynasty League this year. Why don't you just go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, well, yep, as you already said, met you guys through Jesse. I'm a huge football fan. I played football when I was like 11 years old, I want to say, and I just transitioned to being obsessed with football and following the NFL, following the Vikings, and I would just say that I've been passionate since I was 11. So now I'm in fantasy football, and Jesse had told me that there was a spot open for the Dynasty League, and I decided to join in on this. So
You're a brave soul, by the way.
You took over probably the shittiest fantasy team that's ever existed.
Oh, I appreciate it, guys. Yeah, it's definitely going to be an interesting year, but just got to go along with it. Have no choice, and I already knew what the team was like before I did it. So.
Yeah, I mean, you can say you appreciate it, but we appreciate you. If you went to taking that team, I honestly don't know anyone on the planet who otherwise would have taken that team. Do you, Josh?
Absolutely not. I would have tempted to just kind of let them all just kind of fade off into free agency and then just play 9-man.
Yeah.
So, Kevin, you say you're a big football fan. Where does that come from? Is there like an origin story of your football fandom, or kind of what got you into the sport?
Well, it's always kind of been like part of my life. My dad, he played football growing up, and also he was a huge Vikings fan and football fan in general. So I kind of just just kind of got interest, through my dad. So I can't really say it was just like, oh, this player, got me interested. It's just kind of like my dad loved watching it, and I just kind of slowly like the sport too. So that was my story there.
Nice. I like it.
Yep.
You a big Vikings fan, I assume, or?
Oh yeah, huge Vikings fan. Really excited for this upcoming season with Kirk Cousins and Sheldon Richardson. Hopefully he pulls it off, and then Dalvin Cook being healthy again.
No doubt. What do you think? What do you got for a record? What do you think the Vikings are going to do this year?
I'm gonna say 12-4, and that's a successful season because it's a much harder schedule this year than last year. And and that being said, I think the Vikings are still gonna have a good defense, just a tougher schedule, and we're still gonna be the first in the NFC North.
I certainly hope so. Do you give a shit about any of the other teams in the NFL? Is there any other teams you'd like to talk about for a sec? I don't know if you even pay attention to anyone that isn't the Vikings, but
I would say that I don't mind the Patriots because of Tom Brady.
Yep.
And I do like how Bill Belichick, I like how he operates. So that's about it in terms of other teams. But for sure the Vikings, and then, obviously whoever players I have for fantasy, I support those teams, and hopefully those players do well too. So.
Anyone on your fantasy team really excite you this year? I know you kind of took over a shit team, but I don't know if there's any hidden gems that you really liked or not.
Well, for sure. Okay, so for sure out of my starters, I really like the 2 picks of Evan Ingram. I think Ingram is has a lot of potential to score a lot of touchdowns. With Eli Manning, he's kind of doesn't have like a can of an arm. He kind of has a medium arm. So I like him with Eli Manning, and then I also do like LaShawn McCoy. You can't go wrong with him. So
sure. Yeah,
I don't mind those 2 players, but aside from that, no receiver splash at all. I mean, when Julian Edelman comes back, it might be a little better, but I don't know if Jordy Nelson will do very well in Oakland. So aside from the players I mentioned, nobody jumps out. But at the same time, for the rookie draft I had, Cortland Sutton could really shine eventually, and then Sonny Mitchell under the New England system could shine too. So there's some upside.
No doubt. Josh, do you have anything you want to ask Kevin?
No, I was just nodding along as you're talking about your draft because I agree on Cortland Sutton, and then I think you had the 2nd overall pick, which kind of sucks because you definitely deserved the 1st with the team, and so obviously Saquon was off the board, but I think right when you took Sony Michel, I figured that was a great pick, and I know he had some knee injury that might keep him off the field for week 1, but he's gonna. I think he's going to tear it up, especially with Tom Brady and Bill Belichick coaching. It's going to be it should be a good season for him, even if he does sit out week 1.
Yep, I agree, and I'm excited to see what his future is. He's a 1st-round pick, and it'd be kind of weird if they didn't use him, a lot. So.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Kevin, did you get a chance at all to listen to the podcast I sent you, or no? I assume you didn't because I sent it pretty last minute.
No, I did not get a chance. I've been busy with work and grad school stuff, and
sure.
Now I'm in my cabin right now.
Yeah, and just enjoying your Labor Day weekend. This asshole's over here sending you homework basically, and you're just trying to have a little vacay. So do you? How familiar are you? Do you think with the people in the Dynasty League? I don't think you've really said anything in chat. The chat's been very active here the last couple days or last couple week about the last week or so. Do you really know anyone else in the league that isn't me or Josh?
No, I met you and Josh. I met Nate. And then aside from that, obviously Jesse, but really nobody else. I mean, Bradley's not in the league, is he?
No, he's not.
That's right. Okay. Yeah. I was going to say, if Bradley was in it, I would know him. But other than that, I don't really know a lot of you guys. But that's totally cool. We'll get to know each other as maybe if it just stays as a yearly thing, maybe it goes further than just a few years. So you never know.
Mm-hmm. With that said, do you want to? I know you don't really know the league very well, but there's a couple of loudmouths in our league. Anyone you want to talk trash to yet, or you just want to kind of let your team do the speaking for you?
I think just for now, we're just gonna let the team do the speaking for me. That sounds good.
Yeah, I respect that choice when you're coming in with the team you have. Anything else you want? Anything else you want to say, Kevin? Anything you want to add about the football season, or about just you as a person, or anything in general? Any other last thoughts?
Helmet rule has to change immediately.
Oh, you think so? You want to talk about that for a little bit?
I don't really want to talk about it a lot because I'm going to get kind of fiery about it. But
sure.
I mean, as someone that has played football, I think you need to be safe and make sure that you don't lead with your head. That's kind of how I was taught. When I played, elementary football, middle school football, and high school football, you tack by basically raising, you don't lead with your head, you follow through and like pick up your upper body through the tackle instead of like, diving your head. So it's kind of like a different way I was taught how to tackle. But there's just certain situations, especially, in the NFL where there's just no way to prevent, the tackles that, they make. It's like there's no other situation that they could have done that would have prevented that. So it's just kind of, in a game that's so physical already, and then to add on that helmet rule, it just makes it so difficult for the players. Oh, should I do this? Should I take this risk? Or it just causes problems, and there's going to be a bunch of penalties, and that's already been a problem. So that's kind of my 2 cents with that.
Oh yeah, I appreciate you throwing your 2 cents in there. I agree. Obviously you want to, any way you can promote player safety, that's great. But I also agree that there's plenty of incidental situations where the guy didn't try to hit him with the head, or like the other guy lowered his head, and that's why it looked like the tackler was, hitting with the head. So the defenders kind of get a bad rep. I think Josh made the comment in one of the podcasts that soon it's just going to be 2-hand touch, and I don't think that'll be a very exciting product to watch. But
it could very well get to that point. You don't know. You really have no idea.
Mm-hmm.
So.
All right. Any other final thoughts here, Kevin? Otherwise, I can let you get back to your awesome Labor Day vacation.
Hey, nope, that's it. Thanks for asking the questions, and I'm excited to be part of this league.
Yeah, I hope you're
happy to have you.
Yeah, I hope your team gets some lucky wins this year. The only thing I wish, maybe it would be okay for you to lose and get some high draft picks next year, but hoping for the best for you since you were generous enough to take over that team, man.
Sounds good. Thanks, guys.
All right, yep. Have a good one, Kevin.
Yeah, see you, Kev.
Bye.
All right, what a generous guy, giving us some time there on his vacation weekend. So that's Kevin Brown. Did this stopped recording at a certain point? That's not great. Oh well, we still got Audacity. I guess I'll just hit record now for shits and gigs. Yeah, I don't know. Kevin Brown, great guy. Really appreciate him taking over the team. Appreciate having him in the league. Obviously, kind of Jesse was his main friend. Jesse's gone in basic training, but yellow swag, 420 blaze, as the kids would say. So we've got 4 more divisions here, Josh. I figure we should probably go through these pretty rapid fire.
Yes, please. I'm falling asleep over here.
Oh, you big baby.
It's 11:30.
Wait. All right. So
10.
Thank you, Kevin,
9,
for everything. Josh?
8.
All right. I'm just going to stall now. Don't gotta be a dick about it, my God. So, yeah. All right. AFC West. I got the AFC West. The Chiefs, they went 10-6 last year. I got them going to 5-11 this year. Andy Reid, Mr. Beef Jerky himself, is their coach. I thought it was a cool note that Greg Lewis, the Brett Favre to Greg Lewis, welcome to Minnesota. That Greg Lewis is actually their wide receivers coach in KC, so I thought that was kind of cool to note. And then they have a coach named Ryan Reynolds also, so that's like I know that's not an Easter egg, but that's cool. Anyways, they added Chad Heaney, Sammy Watkins, and Kendrell Duller on the offseason, and they lost Alex Smith, Tamba Hawley, Derek Johnson, Marcus Peters, and Darrell Revis. So a lot of their defensive pieces, I know a lot of those guys are aging, but Marcus Peters, I would definitely say, is still in his prime. Pretty much their defense, their early and often focus was defense. So, Patrick Mahomes is the guy, Tyreek Hill, Kareem Hunt. They've definitely got some young offensive weapons, but I've got them going 5-11 this year. I'm not on the Patrick Mahomes train, I should say, and I just think they'll have a bad season. Maybe in a year or two, Andy Reid can mold Patrick Mahomes better, but not this year. The Chargers, a team that's near and dear to my heart, went 9-7 last year. I have them going 10-6 this year. Anthony Lynn is their head coach. Their offensive coordinator is Ken Wisenhunt, which is just a badass name. Their defensive coordinator is Gus Bradley, most famously known for being the coach of the Jacksonville Jaguars. And then George Stewart is their strength and conditioning coach. He was a long Minnesota coach, so just shout out to him. They added Geno Smith for some fucking reason in the offseason. They also added Virgil Green and Mike Pouncey. They lost Brandon Oliver, longtime backup running back. Antonio Gates finally left the team in retirement. And then Trey Boston. Their draft was also kind of defensive-minded. They took the safety, linebacker, safety, tackle, and then a guard eventually. But I think they've got a great team, not a great team, but a good team, and in the right situation with a weaker division this year, I think they'll flourish. I definitely think the Chargers will take the AFC West. The Raiders went 6-10 last year. I actually haven't gone 9-7 this year, but I might have to amend this now that Khalil Mack's gone. John motherfucking Gruden is their coach. I really honestly I want to see John Gruden do great, kind of coming out of the booth and going back onto the field and doing great things. Obviously, John Gruden seems to be stuck in 1980 or 1990, whatever he says. So we'll see how that translates to 2018. They added Doug Martin, Jordy Nelson. They had Martavis Bryant, but they cut him, and then Derek Johnson in the offseason. They lost Crabtree, Cordell Patterson, Alden Smith, Navarro Bowman, Sebastian Janikowski, and Marquette King, the best punter in the NFL. They're all lot. I don't pay attention to college that much, and I don't have any of the names of the players that they drafted. So Raiders 9-7 this year. Probably not though. Maybe like an 8-8, 7-9 after losing Khalil Mack.
5-11.
Broncos went 5-11 last year. Speaking of 5-11, I have them going 3-13 this year. No offense to Case Keenum, I like Case Keenum a lot personally. Vance Joseph is their head coach. I don't have a lot to say about him. He's kind of a newer head coach on the scenes. A lot of people, I don't want to say a lot of people were upset when he became a head coach, but he's definitely not a proven entity yet. Their offensive coordinator is Bill Musgrave. Shout out to old 3-yard pass on 3rd and 10 there. They added Case Keenum, like we talked about, Tremaine Brock, Marquette King. They lost Trevor Siemian, C.J. Anderson, Jamal Charles, Cody Latimer, Virgil Green, and Aqib Talib. They drafted Bradley Chubb, who's a big name in the draft this year. And then Cortland Sutton was running back. They also got Royce Freeman, who's arguably going to be their starting running back. And then some more defensive players. Broncos just, the defense is not what it really used to be, I don't think. And their offense definitely isn't. So I got them going 3-13 this year. Josh, hit us with the AFC North.
All right, so I have the AFC North. Thank you, Garlic. Starting off with the Steelers, they finished 13-3 last year. I'm projecting them to regress very slightly and going 12-4. Coaching, yes, they have coaches. Not much has changed there. Mike Tomlin's still there to step on the sideline when Baltimore Ravens are returning a punt for a touchdown.
Wasn't losing one of their coordinators like a big upset, like Todd Haley or something like that, or was it their defensive? I don't know. Never mind. Sorry, not to derail you, but
they still have coaches. They added Morgan Burnett. I was sad to see him leave Green Bay, but happy he went to another team that I can somewhat support in Pittsburgh. They also added Stevan Ridley and Bucky Hodges. Longtime Minnesota Viking great for all of 365 days. I don't even think he did much. They lost William Gay and Mike Mitchell, a couple of their defenders. In the
Can't
draft,
say Gay, Josh. It's 2018. Come on.
They drafted Terrell Edmonds. He was a safety, as well as James Washington, who was a second-round wide receiver. I think I mentioned him in one of the earlier podcasts as being impressive so far. As far as being a wide receiver in what some considered a deeper class, and kind of standing out and doing well so far. The Ravens, they went 9-7 last year. I have them going 8-8 this year. They have the Calm Harbaugh brother. They also added John Brown, who is concussion central. He suffered quite a few of those while in Arizona. Michael Crabtree, getting him as far away from Aqib Talib as possible, with him out in L.A., and then Michael Crabtree out in Baltimore now. They added Jeremy Maclin. There was a Jeremy Maclin fiasco where he failed a physical after signing. And then he didn't end up signing there because of it, and then that's when they got Crabtree. They also added RG3, who did indeed make that 53-man roster, as we talked about earlier, and then Willie Snead. They lost Danny Woodhead and Ladarius Webb. And then in the draft, they took Lamar Jackson, Hayden Hurst, who's been impressive so far as a tight end. They're really hoping to get out of that funk of drafting tight ends that don't pan out. They made a joke on the radio the other day when I was listening that they haven't had a tight end since, oh my gosh, now I'm drawing a blank on the name. Help me out. Dennis Heap.
Max Williams.
Dennis Heap.
Dennis Pita.
Yeah, Todd Heap. I'm sorry, it's 11:30, way past my bedtime. And then they also added miscellaneous pieces to help them lose 8 games. The Bengals went 7-9 last year. I'm projecting them to go 6-10. Their head coach, my notes, I must have been just in a great mood at work when I was typing up all these notes, because The note I have is Marvin. I'd have been fired if I had coached in Cleveland by now. Lewis. They added Moritz Boringer. He's a fun Minnesota practice squatter person. I think.
Mobo. He's the German guy we drafted last year.
They also added Matt Barkley to replace the AJ McCarron backup role. They lost Jeremy Hill, AJ McCarron, Carl Bradford, and the rookie Brandon LaFell. In the draft, they took Billy Price, center. And then miscellaneous pieces to fix kind of their disaster of an O-line that gave Joe Mixon zero chance to run last year. Browns, last year they went 16-0, 0-16. And then this year I have them projected at
16-0.
Yep, I have them projected at 5-11. Hugh 1-31 Jackson is the head coach still, some reason. They added everybody this offseason. Tyrod, Landry, Hyde, EJ Gaines, Jeff Janis, who they also cut, Joel Stave, Mike Kendricks, who just went to prison, and about 48 other people. They lost Joe Thomas, which is unfortunate, best left tackle in the game.
I'd say Joe Thomas lost the Browns, not the other way around, Josh.
And then as far as their other losses, I don't even think they really matter. They weren't 0-16, so yeah. In the draft, they took Baker, number 1 overall, kind of shocked a lot of people, and then Denzel Ward, who is undersized as a corner, but very, very instinctive and good. And he was one that I was hoping the Packers would trade up for even. But I'm also happy that they got him. They took Nick Chubb in the second, which some thought was a steal. They thought he was a first-round talent. Hasn't done much in the preseason, but it's also the Browns. And then Antonio Callaway in the fourth, who has been said a first-round talent, but an undrafted personality, because he is apparently always in trouble. He actually got cited for marijuana in the preseason. And Hugh 1-31 Jackson's punishment to him was to have him play the entire game in preseason to prove he deserves a spot on the team. Take it away, Garlic.
Yeah, just for Nick Chubb for a second, do you think being drafted by the Cleveland Browns that kind of ruins a career that could have otherwise been promising?
Not necessarily. I mean, Joe Thomas, he was a lifetime Cleveland Brown, and I mean, he should be first ballot Hall of Fame. He's one of the best left tackles to ever play the game. I mean, there's some players that have played in that jersey, that Jim Brown. I guess, yeah, he's probably doomed. I'm sorry.
Yeah, couldn't really think of any more names, could you? So yeah, all right. AFC South, we got the Jags. I like the Jags actually. I give them some shit sometimes. I give Blake Bortles plenty of shit because he deserves it. But the Jags, 10-6 last year. I actually have them going 11-5 this year. They got Doug Marrone. Basically, Tom Coughlin runs that team, but it's more of a shadow coaching situation. And then Tony Sperano Jr. I think he's their O-line coach or something like that. Just shout out to him after his dad passed. That's got to suck, but he's there to do a job, and that's what his dad would want. So they added Dante Moncrief, Austin Safarian Jenkins, and Alex Paul in the offseason, just trying to give themselves some more offensive weapons. They lost Chad Heaney, Chris Ivory, Allen Robinson, Alan Hearns, Mercedes Lewis, and I don't know how to pronounce that last name, Paul
Posluszny.
Yep, Posluszny. So yeah, there's Leonard Fournette's great. Blake Bortles is serviceable at times. I haven't really seen a pattern yet on when he's good and when he's bad, but they drafted the defensive tackle Taven Bryan and also DJ Chark, who's a wide receiver. So we'll see how the team does. That defense is absolutely stout. Leonard Fournette is a stud. So as long as Blake Bortles isn't throwing 18 picks a game, that team should definitely go 11-5 easily. The Titans 9-7 last year. I have them go 9-7 again. No more Mike Mularkey. Their head coach is named Mike Vrabel, who is also arguably like a PC principal type of guy. He's just a big meathead beefcake. They added Blaine Gabbert, Deion Lewis, and Malcolm Butler in the offseason, and they lost DeMarco Murray and Eric Decker. They drafted Rashawn Evans, who I think is a defensive end, and then or defensive end after Rashawn Evans, if it's not, and then a safety. Titans, not a very exciting team. Marcus Mariota, I actually just watched a highlight clip the other day of him throwing a bunch of picks in a row. I don't know. 9-7 might be generous,
Highlight.
but low light, whatever. It's a funny clip, actually. It was part of the why your team sucks for the Tennessee Titans. Drew Marjorie gave me that, so thanks, boss. Colts 4-12 last year. Didn't help that Andrew Luck wasn't on the field. Hopefully he's back this year. Even if he is, I have him go 7-9. No more Chuck Pagano though. Frank Reich is their head coach now, and then Robert Mathis is their pass rusher consultant. So that's kind of a cool role for him. Good for him. Probably something, some similar role that Terrence Newman will have with the Vikings. Obviously not pass rush consultant, but just some made up name. For ads, I literally put nothing. I don't know if they added anyone in the offseason or maybe it was just no one I knew. But they lost the ageless wonder Frank Gore, Dante Moncrief, and John Bostic. Josh, I put that one in there just for you.
Why John Bostic?
I don't know. Why not?
Brandon Bostic?
No, John Bostic. And then they drafted again players I don't know much about. The most exciting was Nyheim Hines, or Nyheim Hines, however you say that. That's the running back that will be competing with Marlon Mack for those first overall reps. Colts, if Andrew Luck's good, that could easily be a winning playoff team. If Andrew Luck's bad, if Andrew Luck's not on the field, I'm sorry, but Jacoby Brissett's not your answer, even if he was a Patriot. Lastly, the Texans 4-12 last year. I actually have the Texans going 10-6 this year. Big fan of Deshaun Watson. Their head coach is Bill O'Brien. Their DC is Romeo Crennel. And then on the special note, here's their offensive/special teams assistant, and it's Wes Welker. So he's getting some coaching job going. In the offseason, they added Joe motherfucking Webb. Good for them. They also added Zach Fulton and Tyrann Mathieu. They lost Tom Savage and Brian Cushing. So Brian Cushing, not a great loss. I don't know if he retired, if he's just on a new team. I think he retired. And then Tom Savage, who gives a fuck about him? They drafted people that exist. I don't know. I don't give a shit about the Texans. Josh, go AFC East.
All right, AFC East. Pay attention to the projections that I shout out to you as well. Patriots last year, they went 13-3. I have them going 13-3 as well. They got Billy B. Y'all as their head coach. Sith Lord Bill Belichick, that is. They added Trent Brown, Jason McCourty, Cordarrelle Patterson, Jeremy Hill, Jordan Matthews, who then went to IR, and then Adrian Claiborne. They lost Danny Amendola, Butler, Brandon Cooks, Deion Lewis, and Nate Solder. In the draft, they took Isaiah Wynn, offensive line, and then Sony Michel, who Kevin Brown had mentioned earlier. And I was extremely high on him as well, just because of his ability to kind of do it all. It's the Patriots. Their quarterback is too pretty to lose, and so I can't see them losing or winning less than 10 games. 13-3 is kind of that projection that I had for them, though. Bills last season 9-7,
Playoff team.
Yes, they definitely they're thanking the Bengals. The Bengals Week 17 game sent them to the playoffs, and so they threw like a little parade for them and a party and everything. It was kind of funny to read about. I have them going 3-13 this offseason, and I don't know why. Coaching, I don't honestly know any of their coaches.
Leslie Frazier, please, Josh.
Yeah, so I'm going to stand by what I said. They added Curley, Marshall Newhouse, the tackle, and then John Ryan, the punter. I don't know why it's in all caps on my notes.
Why are you so excited about John Ryan?
I have no idea. They lost Richie Incognito, and honestly, the entire NFL should lose Richie Incognito forever, and never let him back.
The guy gets a bad rap. I want to believe it's because of the concussions. I want to believe it's because his head's fucked up. But yeah,
there's mental health issues, but we shouldn't get into any of that on this. We're not qualified to do so. Then they lost Eric Wood, who's a pretty serviceable center as well. In the draft, they took Tremaine Edmonds. They're extremely high on him. A lot of people were. And then Josh Allen, and I put LOL in a parentheses next to it because I think that of the 5 quarterbacks or whatever it was this draft, I thought he was the worst. Dolphins, they went 6-10 last year. I project them to go 3-13 this year. Their coaching staff, Adam Gase, and then some others, I'm sure. They added Frank Gore, Brock Lobster, Bryce Petty, Josh Sitton, Danny Amendola, and then Robert Quinn. They lost.
That's a pretty decent list of ads. I mean, none of those are like showstoppers or game changers, but that's good depth all around the board.
Sure, Brock Lobster and Bryce Petty.
Brock Lobster.
But they lost Lawrence Timmons, Jarvis Landry, Julius Thomas, Marquise Pouncey, Ndamukong Suh, and then Jay Cutler. And so Jay Cutler is off doing his own thing on reality TV and slaying Poon, but that was a big loss. In the draft, they took Minka Fitzpatrick, who's kind of that safety cornerback hybrid, and then Mike Gesicki, tight end, who's been kind of turning some heads as far as a tight end that could catch quite a lot of passes this season. Jets last season 5-11. A lot of people projected them going 0-17. They were so bad on paper before the season last year. I have them going 3-13 yet again, and they have. For coaching, I don't know what was going on in my head at work when I was doing this.
3-13 for all the teams that aren't the Patriots, huh?
Yep, it must be the brainwashing of Bill Belichick. But when I was writing my notes up, I have for coaching Todd Bowell movement. I thought it was funny because his name is Todd Bowles. They added Teddy Bridgewater. Well, they had added Teddy Bridgewater, traded him to the Saints, who I talked about earlier without mentioning that Teddy Bridgewater is now on their team.
You son of a bitch.
Well, and then Isaiah Crowell, Thomas Rawls, who they also just dropped today, and then Trumaine Johnson at corner. They lost Matt Forte, Austin Safarian-Jenkins, who I believe went to the Jags. They lost Mo Wilk to the Pack, and then Coney Ely. In the draft, they took Sam Darnold and then Nate Shepard at nose tackle. That's all I have for the Jets.
Anything else you want to talk about NFL related, Josh?
No, I think that's about it. We could talk a little bit about kind of the plan for tomorrow, because you did mention that we were going to have 2 in the next 2 days.
Yep. First of all, I understand like kind of like the last one. This podcast is probably more boring than kind of what we plan on doing throughout the regular season. I was bored,
so I don't blame you for being bored.
Yep. So, I mean, again, this is more like a paperwork type of podcast. We just want to create some characters. Plus, is like practice for us, just kind of getting the recording down. So if no one listens to this, whatever. But this is something we can reference. We talked about it, and we can be like, oh, remember when you said, and then, just add some content to the show to be able to call back to. So thank you to anyone who listened. I doubt anyone made it this far. But yeah, tomorrow, like Josh was talking about, we're going to do another bonus episode just for practicing recording and getting it done. We're going to be live podcasting at draft. We have not that the podcast will be live, but we'll be podcasting live during our draft. So we'll be podcasting as we draft. We don't really have any good game plans for that. We're just going to, talk about our draft picks and kind of what's happening around us in the draft. And any dead air we'll try and fill with whatever we got. It's a dynasty league. I don't know how deep our roster is, but, we'll have eggs and bacon in our belly and we'll be feeling good.
In our belly, I'm going to be eating it while we do the podcast. If we have to draft, I'll be eating leftovers during that. But
that's fine.
Yeah, no, I think a good plan of action for tomorrow is going to be just kind of sitting down during that first 10 picks. I believe we're picked 10 of 12. We'll talk a little bit about the scoring rules. I don't think it's half point PPR. That's really all I know. We could talk about roster slots and how many there are. I think there's 15 bench slots. But then just kind of like Garlic said, going over the picks, maybe making fun of some of the picks that these people played. We've never met these people. It sounds like half the league is from Australia and half the league is from Chicago. So hopefully they take Trubisky off the board like first round. But who knows? We could be playing with a bunch of NFL executives and we just get laughed at for drafting people.
Yeah. I don't really have anything else. I think that was Josh kind of signing off as well. So again, thank you to anyone who listened. I'll give one last shout out to my good buddy Levi Oki. He's the one who made our beautiful art that you're probably looking at right now.
It's adorable caramel. I love it.
Mm-hmm. Obviously he's the artist. I worked on him a little bit with how it would look, but all the credit goes to Levi. If you want to see him again, that's Levi Ogi Illustration. That's on Instagram. And for business inquiries, you'll find his email in his Instagram bio.
Could you spell illustration for me one more time?
No, I could not. Oh, is this the right sound clip if I hit I?
I was checking the specs on the end line for the rotary girder. I'm retarded.
That's how you spell illustration, Josh. Thanks everybody for joining us. Feel free to, I don't think anyone listened to this one, but if you have any opinions on anything we talked about today or anything else, email us at hiddenokesoverdose@gmail.com. thank you, everybody. I love you long time, and have a good one. Get out of here, Josh. Stop. That's not how we sign off. Unbelievable. Yeah. So we touched on it. A little more boring, but yep, 9 a.m. sharp for us. Safety. Oh, dude, my farts will scare anybody. It doesn't matter.
I thought.
Maybe I'll at some point I'll cut out Kevin's clip and